I was lucky. I had water.
We have to be protective of that water.
With this, anyone that lived in Charleston or the 9 counties that were affected were directly involved, including all the media.
I was sort of ground zero for people who needed showers, who needed to fill up water bottles, for people who just kind of wanted a place where they could get away from the no water situation wherever they were and feel a sense of normalcy for a little bit. So I was very, very fortunate.
What happens here, where we get a lot of rainfall, we take water for granted. We're rarely under water stress in terms of water quantity stress. We just have so much water, and that water has a dilution value to it, so it dilutes our pollution. But what we saw from that chemical spill is that when we don't have water, it creates a serious, serious situation.
And it is a do not use order, which is different than a boil water advisory, which is, I think, what a lot of people maybe wondered at first, is this just a boil water advisory? We get those all the time. And it quickly became clear this was not a boil water advisory. This was something much more serious.
We have to be protective of that water because so much of our state, so much of our businesses, our economy depends on it. It is not just people who care about the environment. They care about the environment because of its value to the people that live.
Of course, having reported this, and living in Charleston, we were just as affected as anyone else. The first 3 days after the spill, people were coming to work unshowered, basically cleaning up as best you could with like baby wipes or some sort of like whatever towels you had laying around that you could clean yourself with.
Our staff, our reporters, their families, many of them, I think nearly all of them, they lived in apartments and in homes where they didn't have water either. So this was a story that they were covering, but they were also experiencing firsthand.
I think that one of the things that makes a story like this particularly unique is that oftentimes whenever you're reporting something happens and you either go there or you make phone calls and are interacting with the situation but not necessarily involved.
Anytime you have media affected directly by what they're reporting, it adds a sense of immediacy and urgency to their job.
It's taking a step, maybe it's a small step for science discovery, but it's a huge step in linking people to the science.
I think people need to advocate for their community and for safety in their community, no matter what it is. But when it comes to something as essential as water, know what's going into the water. Know how your water's processed. Understand what potential hazards there are along the waterways which feed your particular system.
I think there were so many questions about exactly what was in the water that initially whenever they said go ahead and flush. I will say this, I think from an economic standpoint there were so many people that couldn't go out and afford to go get a hotel room, couldn't afford to go drive 30, 40, 50 miles to another place to take a shower, to do their laundry, to do the necessities with water, that I think that because of that situation, people just had to go ahead and use it.
No matter how many times we would explain the process as it had been explained to us, viewers weren't believing what they were hearing and what they were seeing. Because there had been that confusion in the beginning, and because there had been some mixed messaging early on and then throughout the rest of the process. And when that trust is broken, it's very difficult to regain that.